quickly and snappy like I promised yesterday. It's not yet morning, but I think you'll still find it beneficial as part of your preparation. So if you check the course outline, you would see that we have engaged content from topic 1 all the way to where we are now. The first discussion we've had in the course, maybe we share the course outline to make it easier for everyone to see and follow where we are so far. The first content we discussed was on the social contract, and it had to do with Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau, and what they think the contract that people have with government or the state is grounded in. I'm sure you remember the Hobbesian view, the Lockean view, and the Rousseauian view. I don't think we should use the limited time we have to look at that one because we've had a lot of time with it, and you can still mop up from our earlier discussions of that, okay? But just so that your eyes will just see it, I'm going to quickly share that one in about a minute or two to put your mind at rest on that, and then we move on to the real reason why I had to do this for many of you on Rawls. Okay, so this is the course outline that we are working with. You know all this, you know the description, you know the course goals, learning objectives, and whatever. I just wanted us to look again at the readings that we have dealt with as you prepare for your eyes. So lectures 1 to 3, like you see on your screen, dealt with the authority of the state or government. You know, this one. And then we looked at Hobbes, Locke, Rousseau. Lectures 4 and 5 engage examining the relation between the individual and human society. That is where we saw Atomism by Taylor, his critique of atomism, and Mauss's, personism, all aimed at helping resolve the seeming tension between individualist doctrines and communitarian or socialist, if you like, doctrines. So we did those as well. You have to capture them very well in your mind, have a simple narrative or write-ups for each one of them to help you understanding, and so you can be able to easily give an account of yourself. Lecture 6 and 7 then looked at, should I obey the state? Just in case you want to remember, that is where we saw Plato or Socrates, the Crito, the dialogue with Crito on Socrates' passing, because he had been sentenced to death and secret. You know the story, we won't go through it. We have done the whole discussion as well. We saw Ken Jr. letter from Birmingham jail, where he makes a defense for civil disobedience on justifiable grounds, the moral law. If a law is not morally grounded and etc., then it is not to be obeyed, and we have a moral obligation to disobey that kind of a law. You saw the steps that he wants you to go through and all that. You have to quickly be accountable for that. And then we saw in defense of anarchism, very philosophical texts, the intricacies, the complex matters that he felt had to be trashed out, and his arguments, for autonomy over and above external authority. And so authority only so far as it is, validated by the autonomous self is what is acceptable. No authority whatsoever can be morally legitimate, says Wolf, and you would want to remember that. So the lectures 8 to 9 on socio-economic justice is what we have been doing the past 2 weeks or so online together, and you have had a big part of that as a class because you were doing presentations. This is mainly targeted at City Campus, okay? So when you hear the online and what I've used for that, I'll share with main campus as well, but the target really is City Campus. So you saw Karl Marx and Engels' rendition of the Communist Manifesto, then John Hosper's, view of what the libertarian thesis is. You should be able to check and find out the convergences, if you like, where they converge, where they diverge, what their emphasis are as communist and libertarian manifestos. That's how you read it, and it makes it easier for you to tease out the philosophically interesting views, not even the historical stuff around them, but the philosophically, you know, substantive matters for discussion. Then we looked at Rawls. So City Campus, you have done a quick brush. I think those who present Deborah's group, like I keep saying, did very good at the Rawls content. In campus, you may see this before we discuss it, but the expectation is that you should be able to read slides, just to have a fair idea of what the discussion is, even if not a substantive discussion on Rawls. Okay, so that is the next one, and then the last topic, which will be done in 2 weeks, will be the concept of practice of democracy. The typical democracy that we know as a concept, but then we look at Kwame Gyekye's view of how democracy today would be impacted by the traditional political, reflections and thinking and practices that he believes helped to establish very good political systems that we can pull out for the contemporary. So the things were traditionally done, traditional modernity is his paper, is looking at how things have been done politically in traditional Africa, taken from the Akan context, and how some of those, practices, conceptions, and reflections can be worked and adapted for the life of today, for the politics of today. So consensual democracy, participatory democracy, access to so-called leadership, dialogue. And so we will try to look at what it is about the traditional that made it relatively, easier to run the traditional system, which wasn't even in the typical sense of a democracy. There were no ballot box, it is not competitive, and 4 years in, then another person comes in the next year. No, I mean, think of kinship or chieftaincy is hereditary. And yet, the argument of the author Gyekye is that there were very fine traces that allowed for stability and, led to a sense of belonging together, very crucial for maintaining a cohesive and strong political system. And he thinks that these ones can be adapted, not necessarily fully adopted, but can be adapted and fine-tuned and picked to fit into the politics of today. So we can take care of these constant coups and constant mayhems and a sense of detachment, continual detachment from the governing body. He doesn't think that was the case in the traditional setting. Are there challenges to this way of thinking? Is it really possible to pick up some of the things that were done in the traditional setting and fine-tune them and bring them into the life of today, which are easily doable and which ones are almost impossible because people don't share who's chief, for example, then becomes the chief for Ghana or king for Ghana, which language. These were not the case easily for the traditional system. It wasn't a problem confronting the traditional system because oftentimes there will be a seemingly quote unquote homogeneous group having common language, having common traditional leadership, etc., etc. People feeling a sense of attachment to that. So to what extent can we have the Rousseauian kind of, the collectively held will in a political system that is heavily multi-ethnic, multi-linguistic, political, if you like. Now, these are matters that we would want to look at. And so your reading of the Jechi reference, I think I gave you that. You have the whole traditional modernity text. You could find it in the chapter 4. It's supposed to be geared towards that. You have to be looking at the internalities of that discussion, okay? But that is not for your interim assessment. So definitely lectures 10 and 11 will not come in your the I is for 20 marks, okay? But it will model the nature of your final exam questions, which are 70% total, which is 70% total. So you have questions from lectures 1 all the way to socio-economic justice. And we want you to be prepared that way, okay? Now, I can use the few minutes or so left to do a quick brush up of the Rawls, especially for those who were not able to make the afternoon session, which is not exactly compulsory. Like I told the city campus, you can't have 2 sessions in a day. It can be tedious, it can be stressful, the time and all. But it came in late, and we want to make the best of that time, have time for you as the student group who are engaging content and need to be helped to do the right thing. We don't want you, passing through the course first off, not engaging the course, not feeling accountable, and the last minute you punch 1 or 2 topics and go and write. No, that is not good tutelage. So I think that has been our target, to make sure you are able to. I think that those presentation sessions have been fruitful, very fruitful. We are therefore ready to do Rawls' paper. Now, just a quick clarification for you. So what was Rawls about? John Rawls is mediating, is becoming a referee, so to speak, between the communists and the libertarians, sort of. The 2 perspectives have a concern each. The one emphasizing freedoms, which you did a good job at. One of them emphasizing freedom, what you say, liberties, libertarians. They have a heartbeat. And then the other group being the communists, they are emphasizing equality, collectivity, equal. It should be equal. So they are doing a comparison of 2 extremes. But the libertarian says, no, protect and preserve freedoms, rights of individuals, personal effort, what they deserve by their being individuals, and stuff like that. Okay, so that is the seeming tension that Rawls, in his theory of justice on your screen now. Which theory of justice does he propose? He calls it justice as fairness, justice as being fair, not necessarily treating people equally, but treating them fairly. I always use that example. In track events, you would see that when we are doing the 400 meters where people take the curves, look at the starting point, they don't start the same. There's a reason. When you take the curve, the bend, where you're supposed to keep to the lane, some have a sharper bend than others. It takes a wider length to navigate that curve. So when they start together, it will be unfair. That's why the innermost person, the one in the innermost lane, will be seen further back behind, as if he or she has been cheated. No, the one is in the outermost lane seems to be far ahead at the starting point. No, when they take the bend, it will make up. Have that in mind all the time when you're engaging roles. I use my special students, and apologies, my dear student, but just for the point to be made, we all you all have 3 hours, for instance, to write a final exam, let's say, or maybe 2 hours rather, to do your essays, sorry, in the final exam, 2 hours for the class. But a special student will have 3 hours. That is half the time will be added, as a matter of principle that the university wants to preserve, because because of the obvious, to make up for the possibilities of what delay. You are reading once in 2 minutes. Someone is having to punch because he or she may not have fingers. He or she has just the fist for now, but has to type in answers. So to balance that inequality, we set up that way. Now, that kind of philosophy is what Rawls is projecting in his Justice as Fairness. What does he say then? It's a few minutes. You can do the thorough reading in the text. What I'm doing in the material, the hard material, will help you do a critique of the raw Rawls. See, so you have to know the Rawls content itself to be able to see the relevance of the critique that have been given to them and have a firm grounding of why those criticisms have come to you and how you could also respond to it. So let's recap the principles of socio-economic justice. We have the communist view who think we should give each according to their individual needs and take from each according to their individual abilities. Okay? So that there should be a way to treat people. Level 100 should be expected to give a level 100 kind of response, whilst level 300 and 600 should be expected to give a level 300 kind of, response, because from each according to his ability, what he is able to do, to each according to what he needs. At this level, you can see that the second half, maybe the third quarter of this semester or so, and from week 7 onwards, you could tell that I've been relatively a bit more firm with the class than when we took off, because you are finishing your third year to enter into the fourth year with a lot of love, but very firm to help you get what you need as a third year student in the second semester. Going to your fourth year, you may be doing long essays, you may be thinking of a graduate program, you may be placed into institutions. I mean, if you have your first degree, you can be able to have the work environment out there. A certain attitude is not is not helpful there. Just to give you an example, okay? So you treat each one, says the communist view. Take from each according to what they can give to each according to what they need. That is the seeming summation of what the communist view seeks to project. The libertarian view, on the other hand, says to each according to personal effort. Remember, liberty, liberty, liberty. So if I have my money, my life, my property, my this, I earned it, supposedly. That is the fundamental thing. It is by my personal effort, says the libertarian. So I am at liberty to do with that which I have without any interference from any entity, including government. Government only has the right, they think, moral right, to protect. And so set up, but you cannot protect me from myself, says them. You cannot protect the collective by, taking from me to give to others without my permission and stuff like that. Okay, so we have a good reminder of that. Then Rawls goes on to say, look on the screen, his principles that he proposes, which we'll work through in 2 minutes or so shortly, because you need to do the reading yourself. I'm doing this just because of the little hiccups we had yesterday, and because the afternoon session is not too much of a full-time required class, so you have to be there for others and give them the heads up they also need. And that is fair. They're doing justice as fairness, okay? So the original position, he says, that's Rolf now, telling us that if you would arrive at his principles at all, he believes you would have to first assume the original position, what he calls the original position, and then the veil, and wear a veil of ignorance. If you did that, he thinks rational human beings will do that. If they thought of themselves as people who had no idea of where they will be placed in human society. Suppose you were to think and make decisions that will guide the sharing of social and economic burdens and goods. You're deciding on that against the background that you don't know where you will be placed in society, whether you be rich or poor, male or female, whether you you have, whether you be African or Ghanaian, you know, Christian or Muslim, or the political power or citizen, you don't know your status, what you will be socially, if that assumption is made in deciding on how to judge, in deciding on how to determine the principles to guide the society. He says, if we assume such an original position, so it is a hypothetical thing. Fane sɛ na nka wonnim nea wobɛyɛ wɔ wiase a wobɛbɛkɔ mu a, na nka yɛka sɛ hyehyɛ mmara a yɛde bɛyɛ adwuma a na yɛde akyekyɛ, you know, nneɛma pa ɛba ne asodi a ɛba, nka nea wobɛfa ne principles a ɔkyerɛ. See that is what he means. I just translated everything I said in a more accessible language for some. Una Rawls and the Fanny New Jacket, she call ake when ulehi no ba he dile ule cover face she can you bana shikalo ba fe mu ko ni beshika ke you ba jojiboju no jiboju ule na ke ato mlana ke ba o ka ba bua wo ko gbeli obuti na kan that wow, the guy is tough now. Go over that guy. Society and the mere principles of Bako. This is what he's saying. Mere principles of Bako. Obako principles in ke balake boy afe shikanwe ashishibu. Alunke ka ya balake shi afe ohiafo no ashishibu. Ono ba hanu fe decisions ni ba wa mo femo. You will become objective. So back to our English now. I just repeated everything I said. Nothing new so far. Okay. So Rawls says, if we were to, as rational human beings, make decisions about sharing, distributing resources and burdens, okay, we were to make it, and we pretended, we assumed that we didn't know what we will be. We are now entering that society, an original position that is. We haven't entered into actual human society, and we were to decide which principles should guide us. Would you say that the rich man should let the poor man work without pay? What if you become a poor man when you enter the actual society? Because you don't know what you will become. So you say, no, we can't make it that way. Let's make it in a way that the rich man gives the poor man his own version of whatever this is. Yeah, 10,000. Or you can't also say the poor man should be given all the riches of the rich man, because you don't know whether you will become the rich man. that would be cheating if you were put in that rich man's position in actual human society. So what? So Rawls says, as soon as rational people sit and deliberate behind the original, behind a veil of ignorance. Veil means you use it to cover up. You pretend. Veil yourself, pretending not to know. When you pretend that you are ignorant. So when you veil yourself, you cover your face pretentiously, making it look like, if I didn't know that I was a lecturer, and you also didn't know that you were a student, and we were supposed to make a decision about whether the lecturer should get more salary, free cars, or the students should get a free cars. If I wore a veil of ignorance, says well, then I won't know whether I am a lecturer or not. That's why these positions are criticized, because people say, but you also are. I am already in actual human society. I don't have to decide that now. I am born into it already. I'm existing in a human society already. So I know that I'm a lecturer. I can't pretend not to know. I know that I sit in a place, for example, so another scenario where I can admit my family people into the university. You say, wear a veil of ignorance. Pretend not to know who has been there, who has applied for admission, and sit on the panel there and look at documents as if you didn't know them. It's pretentious. To what extent can you do that if you were a judge administering justice? Pretend not to know the benefits you will get when you pass the sentence this way. Yes, to some extent, but not to the full extent. Because if I know that the person standing in the thing there that I'm going to pass judgment on is my only daughter's husband to be who gets married. I mean, the family, the two of them get married in a week's time. And then the sentencing is so and so. How objective can I be? Okay, as a rational human being. And so people critique that. And I want you to see why the readings in your text addresses the veil of ignorance, the original position, whatever. But Ross's point is put it on. So pretend not to know that the student script you are marking is Wasimisi or Benton text measures that will make you cut yourself off so you can read the responses objectively without the attachments and the connections and the things you know, because that will blur your vision of deciding on which principle is the just one to apply. Okay. But he says if we did these two, then we'll arrive at his theory of justice. Which will help in distributing burdens and ensuring that there is a fair social and economic justice. Okay, so these ones explain the veil of ignorance and the original position a bit more uh, elaborately. Your duty is to read them to arrive at a fair outcome in sharing the advantages and disadvantages of society. What are those two principles summarized as one? He says, by the time you do that, when you wear the veil of ignorance as a rational human being, equal liberty principle is the first that you arrive at. You will say that, okay, in the society we are going into, we will have to make sure that everybody, because each person has an equal right to the most extensive basic liberties, freedoms. People should have their rights. Every person should have their right, liberty, the freedom to do this, the liberty to do that, the freedom to do that, the freedom to do that. Everyone must have it. And what I have must be compatible. It must agree with a similar liberty for others. So we don't exercise our liberties without regard for other persons. No, it must be compatible with a similar liberty for others. So the first point is the liberty principle, equal liberties. He says we will arrive at that because that will be key. If I don't sign up for that and you don't also sign up for that, we can be easily shortchanged in the society we enter into. So behind the veil of ignorance, as rational people, we will agree that no, when we enter into this society or this association, is it a class, is it so and so political party, is it a church union that we are creating, is it a club, is it a sports association? We haven't entered into it yet, but the socio-economic principle that we will agree to abide by or to be guided by will, first of all, says Rawls, emphasize equal liberties. We have seen that. Then, secondly, inequalities that we may agree to, where we say, okay, in certain instances, we will not treat people the same way, or will not allow. Watch what I'm saying very well, so you understand it. Then you can now learn the tune. Okay. In certain instances, when we enter into this society we are going into, we may have to give special attention, special benefits to certain people. Why? Because that special benefit, like we give them a good car, residence, we will not let them be in traffic, what have you. But why? Because maybe that person will be the only one, for example, that can take care of heart surgeries. If you let him join the traffic, the long traffic, and there is an emergency at the hospital, we will all have issues. We, the collective, see that. We need him to get to the hospital early because there are not many. It's scarce. Insofar as that scarce, resource, that's why I'm using the heart surgeon, for example. If we have such scarcity of heart surgeons, then we will agree behind the veil of ignorance that, look, let's give him or her the benefits that will make her advance, thrive, get to the hospital on time and be able to do what? To take care of the collective us. See that? So look at the social and economic inequalities. They are to be arranged so that they are both one, reasonably expected to be to everyone's advantage. That supposed advantage they are giving to a specific, like the president, like the head of some EC or something like that. It is because preserving such, in other words, giving such advantages to that particular entity, that person, that office, protects or inures to our what? Collective advantage. Okay, so it's a means to attaining our collective advantage. That is why the person or the office may have certain advantages. The VC's office has a lot of advantages. There's the VC's residence. There's this. Why? Because that will inure to what? Our collective advantage as a university. We don't have individual, students, even lecturers and what have you, residents with all the, packages comes with. Just for you to have a fair idea. Some people will never be in the traffic. No matter how intense the traffic is, will give way to the president, will give way to the speaker. They can't be in the queue with us because the assumption is that will inure toward everyone's advantage, and that is being fair. Look at the demands on their life compared to the demands on yours. The Kofi Brookman seller, the one who sells, plantain, roasted plantain by the roadside. We love you, we appreciate you, but there will be a lot of such along the road. So there is no reason, quote and unquote. You see, I'm trying to get you into the mind of the socio-economic thing, the inequality, the seeming inequality, and how it should be arranged. We can get 10 of them on one stretch. But how many heart surgeons do we have? And look at the delicate nature of the heart. And so if someone is a heart surgeon, he has to be entitled to so many things. Not only that, I just picked that for our example, okay? Now, because that is to everyone's advantage, you see that we haven't been shortchanged at all because I'm in a queue waiting for the person to come and operate on me. And there are about 200 people, maybe, in 1 year, queued up, waiting for their turn to have a heart surgery. One person or two, or sorry, maybe 10 of them. That means we'll have to give them certain advantages, but that advantage is not against us. It is to the collective benefit of all. I think I've made a point. The second, the part B of the socio-economic inequality thing tells you that to avoid discrimination, that advantage you give to that special office, the heart surgeon's thing, that office must therefore be open to everybody. Watch. It should be attached to positions and offices that are what? Open to all. So anybody must qualify to occupy the presidency, to occupy the vice chancellor, to be a heart surgeon, to be a lecturer, to be so and so. All these fine so-called, offices or persons or what have you, where there seem to be a special advantage, which will ultimately augur for our collective welfare. Yeah? We agree on that. But still, to avoid discrimination, that office and the benefits attached to those offices and positions, you see, must be open to all so that everyone will fight and express themselves and work to earn that office. That way, it will be fair. Not that because it benefits all of us, it's only a few people that should apply. We also want to go and be the people enjoying that special benefit so that it will augur well for everyone. It can't be only a select few number of people that apply or that qualify to get into that office. In the name of it will benefit all of us. Are you the only one who can do something to benefit all of us? You see that? So that is the second part of it. And I wanted to use a lot of time to explain that. Now that those two are cleared up, you can easily see. So one is for liberty, the other is for what? Economic or egalitarian. It's twofold, and that is what Rawls is doing. He believes that these principles are what free and rational, self-interested persons would choose if they were in the original position behind the veil of ignorance. You see the criticism against that. free and rational, self-interested persons will choose these kind of principles, the two-in-one kind of principles, justice as fairness, if they were at an original position behind the veil of ignorance. Some say, look, it's not everyone that will really rationally make choices that are objective. Sometimes they will stake a lottery. People do lotto, and lotto, the people staking the lotto are rational people, but they bet so they can bring their whole house. Very dangerous. You see that? It's a dangerous decision, but they will make it on the grounds that I could win. It's lottery. So it's not all the time that people will be objective. People might say that I don't know whether I will be rich or poor in the actual society, but let me bet and say that I'll be rich. Sort of. You see, and then they will make wrong principle. So still, Rawls will have to answer to this. That are you thinking, say Rawls, that all rational people necessarily make rational choices? Not always the case. Sometimes rational people make what? They take chances. So it's like betting, and therefore they may not arrive at the principle. These are all to critique the assumptions, okay, in the implied suppose. Not everyone that is as rational as they are make rational. Look at some fine sister, intelligent, brilliant, holding up the home that some stupid rascal apologist guy is beating her left, right, center. You just don't understand. He's not even married to you yet. Rational you, intelligent, brilliant, legal luminary, maybe even a lawyer, well-to-do, well-positioned, but emotions can get the better of rationality. And so we want to tell Rawls that it's not always that as rational as people are, behind the veil of ignorance and being free to make choices, they will necessarily make rational choices. The choices could be inspired by chances, they want to take chances, or it could be inspired by emotions and what have you. And therefore, it's not always that people will arrive at those two principles. We critique that. Okay, you can look at the other criticisms over there. Are you able to really assume an original position? Are you really able to wear a veil of ignorance, knowing very well who you are? Imagine you are praying with someone on a subject matter. So let me address the religious folks. I mean, you have a prayer topic, you and your colleague, and then that colleague you are praying with on a certain matter is the one sitting in front of you, and you have the ability to say yes to that. So let's give an example. You are praying with him or her about, getting admission into the university, and you sit on an admissions board and you see the person's paper lying before you, your prayer topic, and you say, wear a veil of ignorance. See, it's not easy. I mean, it can be done, but it is not easy for everyone. People can easily, overlook their veil, supposed veil. So that assumption is suspect, says critics of the Rawlsian view. Okay, so these are all elaborations that you should read. The difference principle is what we explained earlier. Then the first one is the equality of opportunity. So make it, that's just an elaboration of the earlier point we made. Okay, inequalities must satisfy two conditions. Fair equality of opportunity. I told you that we should all have equal opportunity to become president or to become vice chancellor or to become this. Then we work towards that opportunity. We should all have opportunity to get SHS, and we are proud of our current administration for that, with all the issues around it, which we hope they will listen and improve. But the fact that everyone should have the equal opportunity, the word is opportunity, access into the place. It is a brilliant thing. Okay, fair equality of opportunity, and then the difference principle. That is, while the distribution of wealth need not be equal, it must be to everyone's advantage. You see that? The difference. So we, like I said, it's just an elaboration of the earlier one. We may give some more than others. When I'm distributing, the vice chancellor's salary is not, the president's salary is not like mine, because we expect that the burdens on him are not like mine as well. Okay? But it must be to everyone's advantage. If we give the heart surgeon so much benefits and allowances and what have you, it is because it will be to everyone's advantage. I think that the point is made. So equal liberty space, some applications, useful applications. You should be able to read those and see what the two principles can do, from admission to hospital to banking setting. Why we will jump the queue and save grandma who came in last, and you, the strong young guy in the queue, will remain there. It's justice as fairness. Affirmative action smacks of what? Being fair, you know. Admission policies, look out for that. Someone who was born in some faraway place doesn't see car, electricity is not even stable there. They hardly get see anything in the society, no resources to study. Even syllabus gets there maybe 3 months after they have been released. Yet the person with all these social cultural difficulties makes a certain grade, you know, and then you in a certain environment, access to everything, you know, still socially given, free access to libraries, the cars are passing systematically. You get syllabus upon syllabus, computers are all over, you have internet, and yet you also get, let's say, aggregate 12. Then this person gets, or you get aggregate 6, this person gets aggregate 7. If you're not careful, that person may get admission and you will not, because of what? The underlying principles of trying to making and stuff like that. So you can apply them. Look at the second one, why we want equality of opportunity for all. We want to avoid every version of discrimination. That is the heart of the Communist Manifesto. Don't discriminate in the name of it is my turn, me, myself. No, it might lead to discrimination, but we are all the same. So this, and therefore we search the balance. Okay, I'm trying to cut this thing. Don't want to enter into an hour. So you can read through it and see what is the conclusion there. Rawls sees his theory as resolving the tension between the two extremes. We have seen that. It proceeds on the assumption that individuals are free and equal and that society must be fair. You see, individuals behind the veil of ignorance or at the original position are free, rational, and equal. That is another place to raise critiques, because we already know, says some. But others can say, no, it's not always that we know. Like when we are now forming a protege club or something, we don't know each other. We can say that this is how we want to share the Susu resources we gather, the welfare association we are going to create, open to the whole world. When you come in, we want you to make sure we don't know who and who comes in. We are just setting out outlines. This is how we'll discharge our resources. The person who will lead it will have so and so benefits, because we will want him to respond to our calls every time we call him from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So we'll give him 3 phones or have 3 phones. But the office, how to get into the office is open to all. You have to have been in the group for 1 year, paid your dues, and then you should have so and so. So we lay them all out, not knowing who will come in. You see that? That is possible at that stage. And so roles can be defended. The principles of justice therefore attempt to provide a way of assigning rights and duties in the basic institutions of society and define the appropriate distribution of the benefits and burdens of social cooperation, quote and unquote. This is what he himself states. How do we assign rights and duties in society? And how should we appropriately distribute burdens and benefits to allow for social cooperation? Okay, and he thinks that the two principles deal with these concerns. Now, take note of these discussion points. After our interim assessment, we'll discuss that briefly and then move on to the final topic. So you should be reading the Jechi paper. Okay. How does Rawls' two principles of justice address the fundamental tension between the communists, who are focusing on equality, egalitarianism, and the libertarians, who are targeting freedoms, liberties? How does Rawls' two principles address their tension? How does he? Okay. Is Rawls' theory of justice plausible? So the theory, the conception, the reasoning around just his theory of justice, is it plausible? Can you punch holes and or are able to defend him even after punching holes? That is food for thought. Our substantive discussion after your interim assessment is what? The Jechi paper. So you should be reading that. If you haven't done a good job on your Rawls, right after your IA, mop up quickly. Give yourself a day or two to read through the content and mop up. Add this recording as a resource and let it guide you. Mop up quickly. Then launch straight to the Jechi paper. Groups of all campuses. I need you to competently engage. I'll choose which group I want to present. Whether you have presented already or not is not an issue. You have to be ready to be accountable for content that we are going to engage on the traditional political, just a minute, traditional, yeah, the paper is the philosophical reflections on the African experiences. The chapter 4 says the traditional political theories, blah, 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 something on tradition and how politics was done then. And his argument being that we can pull some goodies from there for the life of today. Please engage it. Let's have a fine winding down of the semester as we finish up and prepare for your very important final exam, 70%. I pray for you for good success. May you have an effortless success, even as you put in your bid. May grace abound unto you all around. Okay? All the best and take care. My name is Dr. Nancy Miles. Baford. This is for Phil 304 2024. Bye bye for now.